We back. We think we solved all our technical problems. So welcome again, Dr. Williams. Today was indeed
Thank
safe.
you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Um, Dr. Williams, as I was stating before, Dr. Williams is my first guest that asked for her questions prior to coming live on the podcast. So I won't ask her the questions in order. And before we proceed, can you tell us who you are and um, what um, credentials you have that makes you a doctor?
Okay, I am Dr. Tiana Williams, dual certified family and psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I have a doctorate degree. That's what allows me to utilize doctor. However, I've been a nurse since 1998. I obtained my bachelor's degree initially from Grambling State University, and I later obtained a master's of science nursing degree as a maternal child nurse educator. Then I went on for my family nurse practitioner, my psychiatric nurse practitioner certification, and then I also did some studies in theology. So I've done quite a bit of schooling.
Yes, ma'am. Um, are you currently in school?
Yes, I am currently in school again. Uh, and I'm going to get another doctorate degree. This time I'm going to get a doctorate in nursing practice, which is a DNP. So I'll have two doctorate degrees. I have two postgraduate certifications, and I have a graduate degree. I have a bachelor's degree, and then I also have um, master's, and doctorate in theology.
Nice. It's a lot of education.
A
Do you
lot.
yes. Do you feel like, and this is not a question that's on the list, but do you feel like you ever know enough?
Actually, no. I do believe I'm a life learner. Um, I believe everyone should be a life learner. But in my studies initially at Grambling State University, I had a couple of professors that were life learners as well, and they taught me to embrace learning. I have one um, professor in general that I can draw from, which was Dr. Rhonda Hensley, which is Dr. Rhonda Hensley, and she always said that we should look at it as if we're just biting or eating one piece at a time, eating that elephant one piece at a time, because it may seem massive, like an elephant, but if you take it just a little bit at a time, you'll eventually get to the end of it.
Indeed. Thank you. What drew you to mental health?
Initially, well, I initially I really didn't want to be a part of the mental health profession, to be honest. I At least I thought I didn't want to be. What I didn't know is that I was always working in mental health. There, in my opinion, there's no way to separate the two. I learned early on, whenever I was working on the floor as a nurse back at the OEA Conway Hospital, and also when I worked at LSU in Shreveport, I noticed that all of my patients had a mental health condition as well as a medical condition. I kind of really didn't pay attention to it. I always took care of whatever the presenting problem was. But as I grew and as I matured, um, I began to see the whole picture. As I began to practice and continue my education and my learning, I began to look at the holistic picture, the whole person. And I realized that in my studies that those that I took care of that were taking care of their spirituality and their mental health seemed to fare better than those who did not, as far as recovery, in the sense of recovery going. And then when I began to work as a nurse practitioner, I started making house calls. And when I made house calls, I would go see patients that weren't able to leave home. This would generally be bedbound patients or geriatric patients or mental health patients whose families couldn't get them to go to the clinic, or they couldn't get the transportation, or it was difficult to get them to be in that type of a setting. So I would go to their homes. And when I would go, I decided that if I was going to be treating the person, I needed to have the knowledge base to ensure that I was giving them the best care that I could by learning everything that I could about any and everything that could possibly occur with my patient. So that's kind of where I started working with mental health, and I fell in love with it. Um, Actually, I fell in love with it when I worked on the labor and delivery unit. That's where I first gained a love for it. But I totally embraced it and kind of immersed myself in it when I was doing house call practice with the geriatric patients and my dementia patients. Let me tell you a brief story. I had a lady that had Alzheimer's once, and being that this is Black History Month, this will be pertinent to that. When she saw me, she cried, and I didn't understand why. And I was like, "Oh, am I making you sad?" And she said, "I didn't know we could be a nurse. I didn't know we could be a nurse." And I kept, and it dawned on me, and it hit me that the time that she grew up in, I wasn't possible. What
Yes.
I did wasn't possible.
Yes.
And she would always cry when she saw me, and I felt bad, but I also felt happy because now, but she was crying happy tears, and she would always tell me how proud of me, and she didn't know me, of course, at first, but she would always tell me how proud she was of me, and she would always tell me about how the people were treating her down the street and how they were treating everybody else, and she would relive situations and circumstances, and it just always made me proud to go to see her because I was living proof that what she had gone through, she could see that it was okay, that we had advanced. So
Indeed. Indeed. That's so important, I think, for the children to see that and understand that we can advance in those areas. That's excellent. When How can the community best help itself mentally now?
the community can best help themselves mentally now by actually getting therapy. I do believe that our community has shunned and shamed and um, looked over therapists and the actual therapy profession so much and said, "Oh, that's just normal. Oh, it's just a little something wrong with Uncle Buck," or "Oh, that's just how they act," or "You don't cry, get over it." People in our family don't do that. We have, as the people, we have overlooked our mental health and the mental health of everybody in our family forever because we have historically had to suck it up and accept whatever fate befell us, whatever bad that happened, or whatever good, or whatever trauma. We were expected to keep going. It didn't matter. And that had, I believe, in my opinion, that is something that was handed down from slavery. It didn't matter if you were sick. It didn't matter if you had gotten raped. It didn't matter if you had just had a baby. It didn't matter if you were 60, 70, 89. It didn't matter what your ailment was, or if you were missing a limb, or you still had to get out there and do what you needed to do to work and to survive. So I think that will and that fortitude, and that strength was handed down. Although abusive as it was, I think that our culture and our community just accepted that we were going to be abused, and whatever happened to us, we didn't matter. So what our community can do, in my opinion, is matter. Make sure you matter. Take care of your mental health. Get therapy. Talk to somebody. Let's just work out some of this stuff that's been going on for generations.
Absolutely, I agree. I you said it earlier that healthcare and mental health, they're interchangeable. That part of getting healthy is part of getting your mental health together. Absolutely. And I agree that it's been such a stigma in our community that, I don't need to talk to nobody. I just talk to God. Well, you need God and medicine sometimes. um, um, as I was preparing, I pulled a card.
Okay.
It's just little nuggets that help me get through the day.
Okay.
As I was sharing part of Davis and D in this podcast, it's just me getting out my own way and letting God be God and living loved. So this is what the card said. Find common ground. The most important trip you may take in life is meeting people halfway. And on the next question is, what life motto can you share to help the people apply in their lives for good mental health?
The one model that I have held on to and that I have lived with as long as I can remember is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And I have practiced by that. I have personally lived by that. And I believe that if we treat others truly how we want to be treated, everything will fall in line. Nobody wants to get cursed out. Nobody wants to be beaten up. Nobody wants to be abused or misused or broke and downtrodden. So if you don't want any of those issues or things handed to you, why hand them to somebody else? So just treat people how you expect to be treated.
Indeed. Thank you for that. Thank you. Um, how can the community help you as a doctor, as a nurse practitioner, as someone that is in the community trying to assist? How can we help you?
One way that the community, and when I say community, um, I'm looking at, everybody. The one way that we can be helped or that we can be assisted is if we take care of each other. And if you seek help early on, growing up, my daddy would always say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So it would help all medical professionals out, not just me, if we all worked on ourselves constantly and not wait until the last minute or expect for there to be this magic pill or this magic potion. It's all a process, it's all a work. Everything, there's nothing that in life that you don't have to work at or work for. And that includes your mental health, that includes your physical health, that includes your education, your work ethic, your marriage, your friendships. I mean, just life itself. You have to do something.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Um, what old school activity have we stopped doing that we should start back doing again?
And I thought about that question, and I think there are a few old school activities, and this may not even sound like a real old school activity, but when I was coming up, kids actually were kids. They went outside and they played, and they didn't come back in the house. You know, they cleaned up, they went outside and they played with other people their age, and they played outside until the street light went off, and you were home before the street light went off. So, an activity that I feel like we should continue doing is just be active. Just be active. Now we've gotten away from being active because there's so many electronic gamings, electronic devices. We're not active anymore. It's not real socialization. Even as adults, people don't get out and meet people and mingle and actually get out to be together. And I do know COVID came, but even prior to COVID, people as a whole, society as a whole has gotten to the point where they'll rather be on the screen or and not in person or not out doing things. So that would be my answer to, and that's really not an old school activity, but I'm saying it's old school because when I was growing up, we didn't have you didn't have a choice. You didn't nothing else you were gonna play with,
Right,
so you had to go outside.
right. Exactly. When I wrote it, I thought about jacks. I thought about skating. I thought about uh, again just going outside.
Yeah, I thought
I can
about skating too.
yeah, a piece of chalk. You can do amazing things on that walk with a piece of chalk, but you had to do it outside. You're absolutely right.
Right.
It
So
was
yeah, you're right. Games, regular board games and Jackson and skating and it back a long time back a while back ago, you could go skate and everybody was actually skating and not just standing up looking at each other. Or you could, yeah, somebody was outside playing jacks or red light, green light, or Simon Says, or it was out, but it was outside.
yes, yes, absolutely. And as you were saying that, I could see where our socialization skills have been decreased because we're just followers. We're just following people and looking and not necessarily applying.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Um, what is one thing that you had to unlearn?
You know, I honestly can say that I'm still trying to unlearn some things. But one, so I can't say that I have totally unlearned anything. I think that's kind of a work in progress for me. But
Mhm.
one thing that I'm trying to unlearn is I'm trying to unlearn caring for others more than I care for myself.
Mm,
And I'm having a struggle with that. That's difficult. It's very difficult. And most people will be like, well, how? That's just difficult for me. I'm not selfish, and I
mhm.
should be sometimes. So that's where I struggle.
Okay. Okay. Is it selfish or self care?
Both, a little of both.
Okay.
Um, because I have read, and I can't exactly quote where I've read that from. Generally, if I'm going to say I've heard or seen something somewhere, I can give you, and that's the science in me, the source. But people that actually are selfish or care more about themselves than other things actually live a little longer or are less stressed
Hmm.
than those who take on the extra care. And so I wouldn't say that it's self-care. I would say that it's more selfish. Now, self-care is important as well. But when I say self-care, I look at that as like a spa day or taking a nap. Um, but even in doing that, even in going to get your nails done or going to a spa day, sometimes when people take those self-care days, they still have the phone. They
Yeah,
still are answering things, or their mind, they're still having that thought process. The mind doesn't turn off. So self-care doesn't always equal, you know, taking care of yourself.
indeed,
Sometimes you have to be a little selfish and shut off some things and turn off some people in order to really focus on yourself.
indeed. And a friend of mine told me years ago that I had taught her that no is a complete sentence. And I was like, "Ooh, thank you for reminding me because I needed to hear it again. That
Hmm.
no is a complete sentence. And it's okay. Yeah, I can say that I'm finally at a point at 51 where I mean my no. I don't need your approval for my no.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's,
no is a big deal.
oh, phew,
No doesn't have to have a follow-up.
no, at all. At all. And it's taking me time because I've asked God, could He change my heart? And it's like, no, you have to learn how to use the heart I gave you. Oh, okay. All right. So yes. And it's like, okay, so God, how do I use this heart? Where do I use it? How? Because it's like, if I'm helping you and it's hurting me, how is that helping you?
That's a deep question.
And so many
That can be,
times, yes, ma'am.
but I said that can be like a question of the day.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That and that can be the golden nugget for Davis and D's safe zone. How is it that
Mhm.
if you are helping someone and it's hurting you, how is that help? It can't be. It can't be. Yeah, that's where living love come from. If it's hurting me, then I can't possibly be loving you.
Mhm.
So let's love one another purposefully.
Right.
Yes. Um, what is your greatest failure?
What is my greatest failure?
Hmm.
My greatest failure is failing myself. I failed myself so many times. So I wouldn't say that there was a job or another person or any other situation that I failed. I would say that it would be me, self failure.
Okay. In what way could you give us an example of what self failure could be?
I would say self failure for me is not taking care of myself, failing to care for myself, failing to put myself first, failing to say no, failing to remove myself from situations and from
Mm,
toxic situations. So I failed myself many a times.
yes, ma'am. That failing to remove yourself from toxic situations that hurt me a little bit. I can say, ouch. As you said that, because it's like, woo, again, if it's hurting, it cannot be helping you. And it's so often we just become numb to the pain, or I
Yeah.
had become numb to the pain. And it was like, you don't have to live like that.
Well, a lot of times we don't see it. And I'm big on saying things that I've heard growing up. Can't see running water while you're in it. So a lot of times you can't see that you're failing yourself by staying in a situation or staying around people or listening to things that you shouldn't listen to, like a conversation. Even if somebody comes to you with a conversation, you have to protect all gates, your ear gates, your eye gates. You have to protect all gates, you know. And sometimes we fail ourselves because we allow ourselves to be involved in things that we should not. um,
Yes, indeed. That was another golden nugget. Protect all your gates, ear gates, eye gates. Protect them. It matters. Do you believe in love?
that's a loaded question. um, do I believe in love? There are many types of love. So that question could be tricky and sticky because I love my children. I love my parents. I love my sister. I love my family. I love my friends or those that are close to me. I love God. I believe in that love. That is a love like none other. The love of God. Um, love, and I've seen love, but do I believe in love as far as relationships go? Is that the type of love? Because there's like lots of loves.
No, you've described all the love to me. I think we all have relationship loves, although the what you just described of your family, that's relationship love. Oh, well, you mean between a man and a woman, that kind of relationship
Right.
love?
Or you're right. Or like, or whatever you decide deem that your relationship is.
Yes.
Yeah. That type of love. And I've said this several times. I sometimes feel that love can be a pretty unrealistic word. Um, because love shouldn't hurt. I think it's in Corinthians that tells you what love should be. Love shouldn't hurt. Love should not cause you to cry or be up or worry or get bruises. Um, but some people feel like that they aren't loved unless they're abused, unless they're cursed out, unless they're getting cheated on. I've even heard people say, if you just gotta, you're gonna be in a relationship, the person is not gonna ever be faithful. You just gotta accept some stuff. Well, what kind of love is that? Where you just gotta, accept some stuff, or you gotta go through something. Well, why you gotta go through something? I've never understood that part of love. In my opinion, that is not not love. The
Indeed.
fact, but I've hear people say that all the time. Well, yeah, we've been married 90 years, and I'm exaggerating, of course, but it wasn't easy. You got to stay in there. You got to stick in there. You got to go through some stuff. You got to, okay, but then you find out that what they went through was 3 or 4 side babies, 4 or 5 black eyes, financial struggles, um, several mistresses, and then in the end, you get, I'm gonna call him Bubba. You get Bubba broke down, and you got to become Bubba's caregiver because Bubba done beat them streets down, and now Bubba broke down. So I mean, no, I don't know about that.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't
I
know about
agree.
that.
No, I agree. It's a very, very fine line, um, as far as that um, romantic relationship.
Now, if
Yeah.
it's now, I do believe it can exist, though. I do believe you can
Yes.
love somebody, and like I said, I've witnessed it, I've seen it. You can love somebody, and they can actually reciprocate that love. But there is reciprocity in that. There isn't a you continuing to pour into someone and they never pour back into you. It's you getting poured into and you pouring in and back and forth so that you never run out. So if it's that type of a balance, then yes, sure. I'm sure that is beautiful. But that's not what we always see.
Indeed. Absolutely. Had an uncle, um, his wife passed, and I remember him over her body said, "I see you soon." And within 30 days, he was gone. And it was
Mm,
like, ooh, wait a minute. I don't think I want to love nobody like that. And I'm almost sure I don't want nobody to love me like that. No, I
mm,
want you to continue with your life. I want you to continue in love if anything happened to me. Like, don't. And it was like, ooh, to see that. And it kind of, I believe in love. I do. To see love is amazing to me. But that kind of scared me a little bit. Like, oh, I don't know. That's deep.
you didn't want love like that, huh?
No, ma'am. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. But I don't know. It's half in the one hand, six in the other. I don't know. I Again, I believe in love. I think we all should experience and know what love looks like and what it smells like. What it's like. Wow, that's love.
Right.
Yes. Um, you are you're a doctor. You're in the medical field. You are. Are Do you have any other businesses or professions you spoke about having a degree in ministry? Did I hear that correct?
Yes, I do. Um, I do. Uh, I attended Hope Bible College. I have to think about the years that I attended, but yes, I did. And I also have Christian counseling license. I'm trying to think. That's why sometimes I have done a lot of things, and sometimes I have to really think about all I've done. Um, I have other businesses, and business partners. Um, with me being a nurse practitioner, I'm able to assist other clinics. I'm able to contract with other clinics to do med management as a nurse practitioner. I have a small cakes, cupcake, and ice cream bakery in Shreveport, Louisiana, with Dr. Althea Conley. She's a psychiatrist. I also have a cannabis and hemp store and a sitting service and adult day, um, mental behavioral health agency. I feel like I'm forgetting something with Marcus Bosley. I have a business partner there with those things. I just know I'm forgetting something. I don't have it all written down, but I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Okay. Okay.
And
We can.
then of course, I have Total Wellness where we work together with Mr. Edward Lanier, which is the mental health walk-in clinic.
Yes.
Um, and I'm sure there's something else. I'm just not remembering right now.
Okay. Okay. If it comes back to your memory, then feel free to let us know. Um,
Okay.
that was a question that I had. It's not on the list. And so I am. You are my employer. I have no medical background, but I feel like it was a God moment that brought me to the clinic. Um, well, let me ask this and then I'll ask the second question. Why did you open a clinic in Bastrop, Louisiana? I heard a guy,
Well,
huh?
you heard the guy what?
I heard a guy in describing Bastrop. He described it as being 10 miles past hell. And I was like, it's funny to me that he would describe it like that. And it's like, well, I guess you have to come here to understand why it's funny. So it
10 miles past what?
he described Bastrop as 10 miles past hell.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So with that thought process of what people describe Bastrop, Louisiana as, why did you open a clinic there or here?
Okay. I had not heard Bastrop being described like that. In all actuality, I started working in Bastrop, I believe in 2018, and I was working there's a child and adolescent mental health hospital there, and I began working there. Um, and I really liked working there, working with the kids. And then I met Mr. Lanier, which I think he can't get in.
He can't. Okay.
Um, and he is actually from Bastrop. I've been living in Monroe for, I don't know, probably over 20 years, which is not far from Bastrop. But I did come to Bastrop a lot to work, essentially just about daily. And I met him, and he was from Bastrop, and I was speaking with him and one of his friends about the things that were going on in Bastrop. There was like a lot of tragedy and a lot of problems, a lot of deaths, and a lot of things that were happening. And I was talking to them about an idea that I'd had, because I was seeing that people weren't able to stay on medications. And a lot of the reasons were because they weren't able to access the care.
Mhm.
And in talking with Mr. Lanier, um, I was telling him about the clinic, and the actual name he came up with. I don't want to tell his story, but he had a tragedy to actually happen to him and his family as well. And he wanted to give back to the community and be here for the community. And I had been working in the community, seeing, a lot of the mental health disparities that were going on there. And that is, a long story short, how Total Wellness came about. He wanted to be a resource for his community, and I saw that there was a need there as well.
And I thank you. There is a need. I think there's a need in every community, especially where there are people that just people. I was gonna
Right,
say melanated people, just people in
right.
general.
Just yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, one of part of this community that we service have substance abuse issues.
Mm.
Um, one of my questions was to ask in were in dealing with the substance abuse issues and with cannabis and being on the ballot or being legal in various states now. Um, how do you feel about that?
Um, how do I feel about marijuana? I feel in from a nurse practitioner standpoint, and this is my opinion.
Yes.
I feel that marijuana should be legalized. Do I think everyone should be able to have access to marijuana or to smoke marijuana? No, I don't think, because of course there should be age limits. There should be some restrictions concerning marijuana. I do know they have it as a medicinal, use where you can use it. But there, I think it will be safer. The problem that I see with addiction, um, from other types of addictions, is that people will get them from the street and they will generally not be what they expect to have purchased. And the same thing with marijuana. Marijuana sometimes, when it's purchased, this is my opinion, or what I've seen in practice, when the patients test positive for marijuana, they test positive for other substances as well. So the marijuana oftentimes has other illegal substances in them. So I think, for safety's sake, because there are some medical conditions and some mental health conditions that marijuana does assist with. But sometimes it's not beneficial for the patients to use marijuana because they go get it, and it may make their condition worse, not because I think the marijuana made it worse, but because whatever the other chemicals and substances were in the marijuana may have made it worse. So I do think it should be legalized. But you also have other various forms. It doesn't always have to be smoked. They have the drops, they have creams, um, gummies, honey, just many other ways. So like most people think about marijuana, they think or CBD or hemp, and they think, oh, somebody's just gonna be out smoking, smoking, smoking all day long. No, sometimes people have pain, and it does help with the pain. And when they use the ointments or the creams or the sprays, on those areas.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you clarifying that. Um, yeah, I do. A lot of, because of your education, your background, your medical history, because of your titles, maybe someone in hearing that and just hearing everything that we've discussed about mental health and the things that are available, maybe that'll be the thing that um, will allow them to go and seek help.
Mhm. Well,
I
well, one thing, this from where we work, what I noticed is when there is the opioid crisis, and in order to combat the opioid crisis, to keep people from getting it on the street and um, getting fentanyl and overdosing accidentally, they developed a medication assisted treatment program where the patients could get Suboxone or Subutex. And they also have the methadone clinics, Sublocade injections. They have other forms um, of the opioid that the patients could use that's safer than buying it on the street. So it's almost like it has been done for opioids, because the purpose is to help them, to wean them off and to get them off of that, and also to keep them safe and to decrease the amount of deaths associated with opioid use disorder. So I look at it like maybe we should like look at everything. and see how we can help combat addiction on every level. There's got to be a better way to help everybody combat or get better from the addictions. And maybe we can, this might sound far-fetched, because I guess as long as I've been alive, I know for sure there has been illegal substances on the street. I don't know if that'll ever go away.
Hmm.
I don't know if that'll ever go away. But I do believe that if marijuana was legal, then we wouldn't have a lot of the crimes or problems, a lot of the arrests and jail time, that people are having for many of them are just trying to get pain relief, or they may have an illness that actually would benefit from the use.
And I thank you for saying that as well. That a lot of, like you said, street drugs might not ever go away because um, people use them as coping mechanisms, and there's medical treatment to help combat. Um, I, just another little saying. Everybody got something that vexes them. Everybody. As sure as you breathe, and you got something that's vexing you. Some of us
Mm,
hide it better than others.
right.
Yes. Um, and I thank you. I thank you for um, sacrificing your life for us, for the community that's in need. Thank you for um, continuing your education, continuing your efforts to help us and give us better ways in coping with mental illness and health issues that we have. Thank you for that. Um, I work with Dr. Williams every day, and I can attest to her sacrifice for the community. It's amazing, and I'm trying not to be a crybaby.
Oh,
Um, I've said it that I'm a fan for life. Uh, I believe in counseling. I believe in getting help for uh, our mental illnesses. I believe in getting help, period.
right.
And how we get it and the avenues that we use. Um, Sometimes the road is bumpy, but you still got to keep at it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yes, I was trying to give a little while for Mr. Edward Lanier to get on. Um,
Okay.
is,
Well, I can.
Mhm.
Is it no? Go ahead. You're going to ask me a question.
Yeah, is there anything that you want to leave with the community or with leave on Davidson D?
I do. I want us as a community to stop normalizing abuse. I want us as a community to stop letting it be okay for uncles and cousins and mamas and brothers and anybody to touch our babies or to hurt our babies. Because if we don't stop this hurt cycle, if we as adults can't recognize that it's not right for an 18-month-old or a 4-year-old or 14-year-old to be touched by their grandfather or their uncle or their brother or your boyfriend, then we're never going to heal as a community. If we can't normalize getting therapy and help, and for that family member that you know it's a little bit something wrong with them. Uh, you know she always been doing that, or she always had that problem, or oh, I thought that was normal. We all did that. You know, if we can't ever get beyond ourselves and work on helping the newer generation, we're doomed. And this may sound crazy because Whitney Houston had this song, I believe the children are the future. And if you think about it, if we don't better prepare these children, we're doomed. History will repeat itself. There will be more slavery, there will be more poverty, there will be more deaths, there will be more abuse, there will be more of us that aren't educated. And it makes no sense for us to be the biggest consumers and the smallest producers. So there has got to be some conversations had where we stop making it okay. Because, okay, once you reach a certain age, I do feel like you're set in your ways. We may not be able to correct that. But let's just start working on the younger generation, and let's make life better for them. Let's stop selling off our land, you know, and getting rid of our possessions. Let's continue to create generational wealth. You know, let's keep property, land, and in our families. Let's start teaching our young people the things that we should have known so that they will be further than we were. And I can stay on my soapbox forever. And I feel like we as women should teach our younger girls how to care for themselves, how to be mothers, how to be women, how
Yes.
not to, twerk, at the bus stop or on the TV, on the Facebook. Let's normalize teaching our young ladies how to be young ladies, because one day they may be mothers. Um, let's teach these kids how to be responsible adults. But first, we have to be responsible adults. You know, the kids aren't going to learn if they see you on Facebook fighting and cussing and stealing and kicking doors out, or if they see you not loving yourself. It's just never going to stop. I mean, the cycle of mental illness will forever continue if we don't ever openly address it. It doesn't need to be a backroom conversation. Um, it's already happening where history is being erased. Textbooks are gone from the schools. We can't teach certain things. Our kids can't learn certain things. And to be honest with you, most of us don't know the history to teach to the next generation.
Indeed.
So it's getting lost. It's getting lost.
Yes. That Whitney Houston song, I don't sing, Dr. Williams, I dance. But it was a point in my life where I thought I could. And that Whitney Houston song was the first song I memorized and tried to sing in
Really?
front of people.
Really?
Yes. Yes. And
Wow.
the part that says, teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them
Mhm.
the beauty they possess inside. It's internalized in me. It is. That's why I know that being at total wellness is a God moment. That if that's why He put me on this planet to show other people the beauty they possess inside. It doesn't necessarily have to look like someone else, but you have
Mhm.
your own internal beauty, and
Mhm.
sometimes we got to sort through a lot of muck and mire
Mhm.
to see that.
Right.
So I thank God for the opportunity to be able to show people that and show
Right.
that it's possible.
Right. Mhm.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, Dr. Williams said that she had never been on a podcast. So I
Yeah.
thank her for accepting my invitation and being the first to be on my podcast. I thank you so much.
Thank
Uh,
you for having me.
my absolute pleasure. And
Mhm.
because we had some technical difficulties and Mr. Lanier didn't get the right link, and getting him the right link has been difficult. So now he has to come back on his own. He has to be by his.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That will work fine.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I said that will work fine. That'll be good.
Yes, yes, indeed. Um, I'm continued success, continued healing, you and family. Um, is that eye has not heard, or eye hasn't seen, ear hasn't heard what God
The
has in
thing.
store, the things that God has in store for you. So I'm grateful that I get a seat to watch.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you for allowing me to come on your platform and to be in your space and to be heard. I really appreciate that.
My absolute pleasure. All
Mhm.
right, this was another episode of Davis and D's Safe Zone. Thank y'all for being patient as we work through these issues with the internet and technology, and making sure that you could hear us so that you can effectuate change in your life. Continue to live love, and I will talk to you all soon.